think I want to mount the master cylinder and mess with that first. So I think I'm going to pull this master cylinder off, get the other one mounted, and then we'll see exactly how the computer and the wires are going to lay in there. I'm sure they'll fit in any real configuration, but since we have the opportunity, we're going to do that. But all I got left is I just labeled the injectors for putting it on the first time, and then I just need to tape the seams, but it's all completely covered and sized and ready to go. So, but I don't want to put it in just yet because we got a little bit of dirty work to do. So I'm just going to let it hang here on top of the engine and get that master cylinder out. And I know we're going to have to get under the dash to do some dash work, and that's we got a digital dash to put in. So, and I know I might need to add wires to the harness or something. It says it's for an LS swap for this type of rig. We'll see how accurate that description was, and we're going to get after it. Get these brakes out of here. We'll take a look at this dash and we'll see what how it goes. I didn't even need to use one of my OBD2s I got from the yard, although mine has a cover on it. We can give them a cover if they want. Alright. The kit comes with the OBD2 port. Okay. So to take the bezel out, the instructions are actually in the what is this, Intellitronix? Intellitronix Electronics Intelligent Made in America Lifetime Guarantee. Okay, great. Great. And it has stock gauge removal. I just didn't really see how it says. It says pull the stock dash number 9. It really helps to drop the steering column. So that's just 2 bolts on a strap. You can easily see it. But anyway, I pulled the parking brake down and I pulled the strap down because obviously, like, we're gonna get into this clutch pedal and this brake pedal and stuff right behind here. So it's kind of our benefit to have this gauge cluster pulled out right now. All right, now we got the clutch pedal out. It went through here, over there. Feels like our brake pedal goes up and over around that. Here's how this one went. Had that retainer bolt there you pull out. It's got a groove in the shaft. You can see it gets into the shaft there. Positions this, gets that off of there. A couple of little bushings, one on each side. Yeah, getting the springs off, that was kind of fun. Got some major binding here with this. This thing was connected clear over here. Boing! Yeah, these are Heims. They should not be bound by anything. So we're gonna put maybe a little spacers, something next to the spherical joint that helps it motate better. Let's get this thing out. It is a pretty nice looking board. I mean, you even got like check engine light, you got your bright indicators, got little arrows, brakes, mile per hours. Oh, it must be configurable. RPM, temperature, oil pressure, voltage, fuel. Yeah, and a couple of switches for probably calibration or resetting, various functions. Adjustment to get your volts to match. And then everything's soldered directly to the board with a small amount of strain relief of like silicone or epoxy or something, or they're all soldered in like right there. So And they go completely through the board. But this isn't gonna be subject to too much vibration. I definitely wouldn't want those shaking too much though, just to make sure. Yeah. So basically this Intellitronix dash comes with about 19 wires that got to be integrated. So, I mean, you got to cut the stuff inside there, but if you ever want to be able to pull this out, what do? You know, you got to, what, you put bolt connectors on it maybe? But anyway, we're going to put some little connectors on it that I got, and label some wires and get this dash put in there. I don't really have much nice to say about this Intellitronix dash. I hope it looks good. Just that they don't make it very, like, it better be pre-configured. I mean, I thought I took a look at some of the dip switches, but that was like a week ago. I was at a conference all week last week, and my mind wasn't in this for a minute, which is no big deal. If we got to switch something, I'll just pull it out again. But I think I checked it all and made sure the dip switches were set right, or at least set initially, because there's a lot of stuff that you could possibly change, and the only way to adjust it, well, there is some kind of wire that you add a trip calibration button and a TAC programming button, but you got to set up your fuel sender, you know, just in case. There's adjustment for your voltmeter to fine tune it. There's, you know, a bunch of things could need a little additional setup is what I'm saying. So we'll see how it is when we hit the power button on this thing. And it's pretty, you know, it's pretty inclusive unit, but, you know, I think these are like $500. Yeah. And then it's going to take you a little bit to put one in. Yeah, you know, broke off the sensor in the cylinder head. I didn't do that on the last one, but you know, them things are just so thread. The threads are so thin, the metal. So I found a place called Glow Shift that has steel inserts, so that's what I use now. I tried to use the one that came with the kit, it just snapped right off. And then the oil sending unit, they don't even tell you. I mean, this is not so bad when you know the motor a little bit, but for somebody that doesn't know the motor as well, I mean, it tells you like, hey, put the oil thing in. It's close to where the oil filter should be. That's literally what it says. Let me see here. Insert the 16 millimeter bushing into the port on the engine block, which is usually located near the oil filter. Then insert the oil pressure sender into the bushing and complete the wiring. Yeah, that's what it tells you. I mean, it's got paper. I mean, they build it for these engines, and nobody had a fucking camera that could take a picture of that and put it in here. I don't know. I mean, I think there's two places it could possibly go. Up in the front, you know, like behind the power steering pump. There's a hole behind where the filter mounts, but it's never going in there. You could get a thing on the side to tap it in, but then I'd run a hose up to it and remote mount the little sensor, because you don't want that thing vibrating. I don't really think you want it vibrating on top of the motor, but you know, because it's like I've had the Autometer version one before, and actually had that little housing break before, but it's got that little fat canister with the little teeny thing. It's not kind of like the modern pressure sensors that are really compact and stuff, so I don't know. Anyway, that's what we got to deal with. It's been a lot of little heartache of this and that, pulling the steering column to get this dash in, and then the park neutral safety switch got bumped somehow, taking the column in and out, and it's so close to another bolt that it just, I don't know, it either wasn't tight or something, it busted off. It fell on the floor in like 3-4 pieces. Like the contacts are down here somewhere, and
So we had to get another one of those. That's not a big deal. Weren't trying to roughhouse the thing, we're just trying to set it in there so I can get the brake gear out of the way so I can work on all the brakes. And yeah, it's just been one little thing after another. So right now I'm gonna try to rip through this wiring. I'm not gonna do a whole lot of videotaping some of this stuff. We're just doing wire for wire. I can tell you all about it when we're all done. And hopefully the next time we see it, everything's fired up and running. And I gotta run some brake lines. As soon as I get this dash put back together, I wanna get these pedals set up and run some brake lines. But I was just trying to do it one thing at a time, but I don't know, now I'm jumping around. So this dash, I don't know. I guess you get what you pay for. And we'll see what happens when we fire it up. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious about this myself. Okay, so more joy for everybody. So here's the oil pressure sender right here. And I end up pulling off that, I unscrewed that washer off of there. And well, guess what? It don't fit on this one. Yeah, and then this screws in the top of that. Because they had already, on the swap harness that we got, it was already disconnected anyway. So I'm like, seems like the most logical one. Only one pin in that guy. I thought there was two in these things. But I haven't looked very close, I guess. I'm not really sure. It makes me want to go check out a couple other motors I got over here. So here's where we're at. We got a black with yellow stripe. We got a black with gray stripe. We got, what's on the other side? A red with a white stripe. I don't know. There's like 5 or 6 wires here that don't have anything in the damn directions. What in the hell? Well, here's where we're at now. We got most of these all plugged in. Obviously, it doesn't have a water temp idiot light anymore. The gray wire goes to the instrument lamps if they're dimmed. This one I hooked up into the, it actually hooks up to the parking lights, so it dims automatically. You don't use the amperage sensors, and you don't use, a couple of these other grounds. We got engine grounds, all that goodness. But the funny thing is they got wires over here that ain't got no home. Or there's a black with a yellow wire, a black with a gray wire, and and don't call me telling me, or comment, I don't care. I'm putting it together. This rig has to go together. I'm like, it's been sitting in here forever. I've been sussing out all these wires, and the instructions are in broken English, and I'm never gonna know if this all works anyway until it's all together and then doesn't work, or does work. I don't know. People have used them with success on the internet, as they say. And there's no gray cable button. There is a push button on the dash, but then you got to pull the entire dash to calibrate. I don't think I'm doing that either. I'll hook it all up. It's somebody else's job to play with this thing. I got to move on to the next rig pretty soon, and I'm trying like hell to get this done, even though I took a little bit of a break to do a conference. But it's a very poor directions. I'm sad to say it's made in the USA. It reminds me of American cheese, which is my least favorite kind of cheese. But apparently they like it in South Korea. But I don't know why American stuff sometimes is just it's like people used to make fun of other stuff, and somebody should be making fun of this. Like, this is just lazy and junk. And yeah, I'll never put one of these in one of my rigs. I don't care how good it looks. Like, this is just, there's just so many little things that they could have done to make it easy, but that's just taking and consuming time. And I don't appreciate them wasting my time. So yeah, to charge somebody money to put this in is a little wild, because you'd have to, if you'd done a couple of them, I could see, oh yeah, you're used to it. You know, you want to be back and forth and with the company, you know, you're a Intellitronix Pro or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, the directions don't match, you know, what's going on in here. We got wires that don't go anywhere, and that's fine if they don't do anything, but how in the hell do you know until you plug it all in? And yeah, so I'm gonna tie up the wires we don't need and plug in the rest of the dash and put it in, and go from there. We got just clean up a couple little things and then put the column, lift the column back up, and yeah. And we got this horn that was never assembled. I'm like, I don't know where the parts are to that. Looks like there's some springs missing or something. I don't know. I thought they usually have a spring, or maybe they just sit there and the top part goes down. I honestly, it's been a while since I tore apart one of these things. I mean, this is obviously the contact, but it's the, you know, the big size instead of the small size, and I don't know. You know, it's just a can of worms every time I get to the next step. I couldn't even find a copper washer for a crush washer for the damn oil pressure sensor that came with this kit. They give you a crush washer for the, you know, the nice cheapy breakable coolant temp sender. And if you can't hear frustration, you know, even with having like alexithymia or something like that, I'm telling you, I'm frustrated, Jack. Or maybe that's the only way I can sound, but like, it's just been one little thing after another, and this is not just a simple wire tuck. There's no wire tucking. I mean, we just running the wires, you know, kind of out of the way, not really trying to hide wires. This has just been a lot of wiring, and I want to get it back to firing up and running. And so I think it's time to just put that dash together, and yeah. And I'm gonna check on some other stuff because I want to put power to it. I need to get to that point where I can start powering stuff up, and I need that. I gotta wait for another place to open because we're in rural wherever, you know, and I can't get a goddamn copper washer, you know, not at my hardware store, not at the auto parts store. We had a couple in the shop. We tried to turn one on the lathe. I know that was a little silly, but that's all right. It wasn't holding it well. It's so soft, it just started wibble wobbling it, and I'm sure this might crush, but I don't know. I'm just gonna start out fresh with a nice flat one that fits the thing and go from there. It probably would crush just fine, but I ain't gonna fire this thing up and have a break in the first 5 minutes. So that ain't worth it, because I've already went through that with every other part I put on here. So the struggle bus is at its last stop. So we're gonna get this thing, and yeah, that's where we're at. I mean, there's not even that much left on this thing, but so we're gonna throw the switches back in there, and yeah. And there's just more stuff under the dash, you know, when you look and you find fuses that aren't in there and missing, and some things that never worked because they were never hooked up. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and yeah. So we're gonna give it our best and get it done. All right, looking down the back of the engine, there it is down there. That's our bushing installed with the new crush washer, 16 millimeter crush washer. Gonna need another one of those possibly, if that doesn't seal or maybe it's supposed to, I'm not sure. Directions unclear. And then we're just gonna screw this into that down there. And then we'll hook up 2 wires right there. Oh, y'all. Oops. Oh, it's upside down. You'll love this. I wonder if I can be able to see it here. Not really. Well, it turns out that thing, it runs into the cam sensor. Yeah, nice. It looked like they thought of everything. Okay, so here's another thing we could look at. We got all these all in. Yeah, and then we put the other one, labeled them and stuck them in some clear stuff. They're just back there in case you want them. And then, like this thing, it slides back and forth to be adjusted. So what we can do is the terminals that are on there, there's a group of 2 and 2 on one side and the other. I'll get some light here in a minute. And then we'll go ahead and move this to park and neutral and make sure our park safety switch works and our backup lights are get continuity when it's in reverse. And then we'll tighten up the screws that hold that in case you ever had to put one of those on and adjust it and all that stuff, good stuff. So we'll get some light. Terminals are a little dark, it's way in there. Okay, you can hear the thing beeping down there on those terminals. Can't really see it. It's the 2 that are opposed like 90 degrees to each other. And anyway, we got that there, and then we got this in reverse. Can't really see what I'm doing here with 2 hands. Anyway, we could see it was on reverse, and then we could scoot that thing around if we saw that it wasn't on the right side. I guess I don't need that on anymore, but you know, let's see if I can see what you saw. Yeah, it's pretty much right on the R. So yeah, we'll be fine for setting up reverse, and then we'll double check park and neutral.
How's it going? Yeah. This video would be the one, but you know, I've had a lot of stuff going on, and just a lot of life, you know. Everybody has it. So, yeah, I'm about to finally finish college. I thought I was going to finish before, but there was some errors made in, you know, some processes. So there was another class to take, and we're taking sociology, and so that's probably why you're going to see a climate change call to action video. You know, it was it's a worthy enough cause. You know, it's just like, hey, it's real. Quit thinking it ain't real. Plenty of evidence. Just, it's real. We'll figure out how to get through it. We don't need to jab on and on right now. I mean, change takes time anyway. If you want rapid change, you know, you either got to have a bunch of folks that are up for some rapid prototyping, and if they ain't, well, sometimes you just got to do what you can do all by yourself. See if you can make the impact of 100, because the impact of 1, that's a tough one, you know, for certain subjects over history. Woo! Automatic drain valve. Yeah. Pretty nice this time. Alright, we're cleaning up the threads, cleaning up the fittings to go back in the new proportioning valve, and that's all. I just was like feeling like all of a sudden, you know, maybe I better say something about why it's taking so long to get a video done. Well, finishes school, a bunch of real stressful shit is going on in other aspects, and I did certified energy management training for a week. I can tell you at the junkyard when it's wet, man, your hands get cold. Everything's cold and wet, and the little wind comes by. But I'm going getting little brake separator clips, because they're just, you know, it's something you can't find. You don't want to pay a bunch of money for it at the parts store, and a lot of rigs already have them on them, so we will use these for our brake project to make it look good, kind of the finishing touch. Let's see why we made this piece. Crawling under the truck. Looking pretty good under here, really. But the Heim wasn't doing no good in this slot here. So we made this, I made a bushing here. I think I'm gonna tighten it up just a little bit. It ain't too bad though. Yeah, we can slide that guy right back and forth, and it can be tightened properly. Yeah, that'll be better. And then we're gonna taper the other side for the Heim joint, because it was bound up and it was eaten into this piece of aluminum. So hard to get a angle down here. I'm sure there's other professionals. All right, now what we're looking at is this now has enough movement on it to get all the way right up there without being bound up. So as before, this was butted up against. Now this should be a little shorter. The lathe chuck wouldn't hold it up, so I'll see if I can pick something up that's something like that.
that I could maybe work smaller tomorrow, but you know, it's like you waste all this time. It's like I thought I would cut this down to, oh, I don't know, down here somewhere. So this is about half as thick. I just couldn't do it, so I didn't keep trying. I rounded it off to give it the clearance for the for this guy, but it really isn't going to use a whole lot of it. But now I'm gonna go see what position it's in here. We got park up here, so it looks like it's a little close to the exhaust, and that's, you know, where we could gain a, maybe not a thumb, but a 200 thousandths or something like that right here, or 3/16, 187 something, and it'll give us the most exhaust clearance with the most articulation, and it'll fit up there without binding. That's what we're messing with right now. Just thought I'd give it a shot. Oh yeah, I heard the Rocky theme song playing when I finished this. Pulled it off the lathe. Now we don't have any binding here. Hopefully when that tightens up, there's a little bit, look like it could come off on the top of there, but man, I made it a lot shorter. I don't know what in the hell else you do. You bend the bar, but yeah, I don't know if that's such a good idea either. Anyway, getting stronger. Da, da, da. Anyway, we got no binding for the most part. Like, we've took most of all the binding out. But what's taking so long, right? Okay, so we got this cam sensor wire. Just runs really close to the headers. So I wanted to wrap it. So I pulled the end of the thing off and I put some silicone stuff around it and fixing that up. And then we got the transmission piece going, so that's done. Had some drips on the brake lines. Those are sorted out, and pretty soon we're going to be bleeding the brakes and just tying up these oxygen sensor wires for the moment, and yeah, we'll get them up out of the way. Everything's really good. All the wires are nice and routed and tight, and yeah, we're gonna get this starter up there. Another one of the finishing parts was getting a brace for this, and I thought about this quite a bit, but I feel like I was gonna brace it from here down to the frame, but then I thought, oh, this takes up a lot of room down there, and it probably doesn't need to be that crazy, so I just make a big wide flanged piece to secure it to the core support and to hold this other side of the flexible stuff so it can still flex on both sides, and then have some kind of saddle under this that you can put a clamp on or something, or you know, some kind of hold down that might have some a little bit of flex, just so we minimize the chance of it hitting here or on the other side. It just keeps it centered here, and yeah, so we're working on that. We got a little flange here, just kind of touches the bottom, and then we're just going to make a half round and kind of put it in straight, underneath there. So everything else is going pretty good. Yeah, turned out pretty nice. I like getting those little stock pieces. Got the brake pedal hooked up. Did some testing this morning for the brake switch, make sure it engages at the right spot. So yeah. Well, we primed the fuel, so just take a look for any leaks. I don't see any straight away. But the fuel pump did run, so that's good. Alright. Just one of those one deals trying to check one thing at a time. So I just put in a new headlight switch down there. The old one was... Oh, we got lights and lows. High beams, high beam indicator comes on. Well, that's pretty badass. Okay. All right, we got running lights in the back. Nice, nice. And I don't know if I quite have brake lights yet. Let me see here. Just push these. Oh yeah, it hangs on. It looks like I need to adjust the switch. But that's great news. We got great brake lights also. Okay, so one of the last things I'm trying to do is get all these lights to work. And I got here, these ended up being real tight to get these bulbs in and out. And they're so tight that this, you know, these $22 Sylvania bulbs right here from O'Reilly's, you know, they broke. The little piece on the end broke. That's all that holds it is one little tiny tack there, and then two little tiny solder joints inside, paper thin. Yeah, nothing to keep it from really rotating in this. It's just a nice smooth plastic inside metal. Very poor type of construction for something in this application. It shouldn't need that much twisting force, you know, normally, but you know. And then this is the Napa bulb 1157 right here. So this is yeah, this looks like it's built to not fall apart when you put it in. But another thing I found out is that these bulbs, these things, it doesn't allow the springy things to push past here very well because of these covers on the wires. And there's two bolts on the bottom. I don't know if we'll be able to see them, but we'll try here. There's actually two holes down here to get your wrench. Good Lord, what am I trying to look at? Oh, clear over here. So two bolts, and those go up to the nuts on the bottom of the back side of these things right here, right there, and right there. Then you loosen that up, and then it gives it some more wiggle room. And I'm actually going to take these out to put these new bulbs in. But it's something I had to figure out here, and I thought maybe that'll help someone, because they can be really hard to get the bulbs in and out. And if you just take these loose, you can also reach them from in here and up under there like this. So as soon as I get those out and swap them out, I'll show the rest. Okay, so somebody fixed this somehow and put this heat shrink over here, and it didn't allow the two terminals to spring in and out. So we changed it, and I think we could put on something that might be more conducive to changing bulbs that'll fit a little looser over this, because they need a little bit of something to get these bulbs in and out. And after I took this loose, I was able to get them in, no problem. It was just some kind of fix, you know, that you had to chase down. So we're not getting full throttle out of this thing. And this thing here, if we're looking at this, it's mounted on the firewall like this, you know, and then like the firewall's like right there, and that thing's up, and then it moves back to pull on the thing, right? So if we just gonna draw that, we'll like put like the firewall, the stick coming through, right? So you push on it and it goes that way. And say this moves, whatever, 1 inch, right? And we got the throttle body piece it looks like this. We know it has to move 90 degrees. This thing's plugged in here, you know, through the middle of the circle of the where it rotates on, and that'll give us full throttle, right? So that's simply that distance right there has to equal the distance between here and here. So if this is 1.5 and we only got 1, we got to get 1.5 inches. And if you see, if you just draw this line straight up, 1.5 ends up coming up at some point. If we drew this line, and then we could go, oh cool, 1.5. So if you had a reference mark, you could figure out where you wanted that exactly. And then what you do is you just extend this out. I just use a sleeve to make it strong, and then extend this out until I get at least my 1.5 inches of travel this way. That will, in the cable, which will equate to rolling around this circumference here to get our 90 degrees at the throttle body. So that's how we're going to achieve that. So I got to extend this little guy just a little bit. I think it's short about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So we're just going to bring it up a little bit. So I was just trying to shove this shredded wire through this little ferrule thing here, and the only way I was able to do it was to use a zip tie and pull it right up to the edge and start feeding it through, and then spinning the brass part the same direction, and it went right through, you know, after a little bit of time of thinking about it. Yeah, so you could use a zip tie to like help stuff shrink down, you know, the diameter, to help get a cable started. I don't know, you know, how long you'll be able to pull it off, but it worked. So maybe that's a helpful deal.
And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. And I haven't taken this off because I was going to put a new radiator cap on it. I don't have it yet. Sometimes they peek out the top, but this one didn't. So the moment of truth, right? We got all the LED lights in, and I haven't had to redo anything. I had to fix the headlight switch. No headlights as soon as I turned it on. Had to replace that little switch where you hit you with your foot. Got the throttle, so I'm thinking we're really close to 100% wide open throttle now. I was only getting about 75% before. It may need more work or something, I'm not sure. That'll have to be looked into some more at a later date. And then, yeah, let's give it a test click and see how hard it turns over and all that stuff.
So if you got a dome light that isn't working, you could get in here and off of your switch for your headlights on these old rigs. They usually got the pull switch, you know, with the turn to turn the dome light on or whatever, courtesy lights. And you could check to make sure that this white wire coming out of it goes to ground. You don't have to cut it, but I gotta splice it anyway. So, you know, just put your meter in continuity, and hope that while you're filming you can do this. Oh, I almost had it. Hold on, this is hilarious. I got this one here, right? And we got this little guy over here. Oh, I heard it chirp. Ah, come on, baby doll. Got it. So your white wire is grounded coming out to kick on your dome light. So dome light's always usually got a hot to it all the time. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, I'm putting courtesy lights in here. They're just operating when the dome light lights, so I'm just tapping into where the dome light gets its power. And if you had door jam switches or something like that, it'd be different. Those would be contacting ground. You know, they basically do the same thing. So, yeah. There we go. Got hazards. Yeah. Everybody's cool. Nice. I think this is right. I think this is right. I have no idea if this is right. And this is not right. I feel like that's opposite, directly opposite of what it should be if it's 100, 0 to 100. I feel like it's just bass backwards. All right, that seemed to be the issue. What a weird deal. All right. Okay, let's figure. I couldn't figure this one out. I feel like that's why this one is moving. All right, well, something wrong with this dash because it keeps the hours won't stop changing as it's going through. So I'm going to pull this out one more time, and I think I'm going to try to replace that button if I have a bunch of buttons. It just so happens. So what I'm doing is I got the meter out, and we're going to check continuity here across this switch without it depressed. So quite going to be at the right angle. Like, I don't have another way to do this. So let me just check the one. Oh, sorry. If I press it, okay. It doesn't take much on this other switch, though. Yeah. Man, taking it all apart, it's working correctly. Just so funny. Just so funny. Why did that one stay working? I mean, maybe there's a bridge in the solder or something. And then another thing is you could have traces right here around the nut, so you want to put the nylon between the board and the nut. Yeah. Make sure of that. 2 important points.